Welcome to the Serendipitous Rebel podcast. I'm Wendy.
And I'm Krystal. We're business coaches and retreat hosts for bold, purpose-driven women who are ready to build businesses that actually fit their lives.
This podcast is for the authentic, rebellious entrepreneur who's done playing by everyone else's rules. We know what works because we've lived it, coached it, and savored the journey.
Join us for real talk on business, life, and everything in between.
Hello there, and welcome to this week's episode of Serendipitous Rebel podcast. I am Wendy Guth, and I'm here with Krystal Eicher.
Hello.
She's waving for those who have the privilege of seeing her wave. So this week's episode is all about the messy middle, which is something we talk about a lot lately. And I'm going to throw out there right from the start. This is actually where I think where real growth happens. And this is where we grow both personally and professionally. And I'm really excited to talk about it. And I think the best thing to start off with is what exactly is the messy middle? And I'm looking at Krystal with bated breath.
Bated breath. So the messy middle, the way I look at it is when you are no longer a beginner here. You've been around the block, you know what you know how what this works. You don't need help figuring out your offer. You know what you want to sell and what it is that you want to do. And so I think there's a lot of things in the online space that speak to that piece of it, right? Starting a business, getting things out there, you have a website, you probably even have a lead magnet. You don't need to sit through another lecture or course telling you what that is. Okay. But then there's this huge gap between that point and I have it 100% figured out, dialed in. I'm making all of the revenue that I want to make in a year and nothing needs to be changed. And there's just a lot of stuff to figure out in between those two spots.
Yeah. And I mean, I just kind of picture it from a bit of a broader perspective in that it's a time when you're standing between what was and what's next, and all the different things that fill in with that. And something just popped into my head that I hadn't really thought about before. And that was the interesting inclination to lean into what was. That, because think about it. I mean, I get emails that say, oh, don't you want to learn how to do XYZ PDQ? And it's like, I know how to do that.
Yeah, I already know how to do that.
Sign up for that. Oh my gosh, that IFO. It's just, and I think that women tend to, even though we are super accomplished, sometimes there's the doubt or the questioning that comes into our minds that I think actually is exacerbated by this whole messy middle. We're like capable, but we're really, really tired, so
yes.
Yeah.
Well, and because you're in that in-between stage where you're like, okay, I'm not the beginner. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't need another beginner course that explains all of the basics. Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's not 100% clicked. And so it's easy to fall into the trap of I suck at this. I'm not doing it right. And so I do need that other big thing, because at the end of all of those beginner courses, they are actually promising you a finish line.
Yep.
When the reality of it is all of those beginner courses out there really dump you into the messy middle lane. But because you feel like, okay, this thing's not working. I think I told you this yesterday on the phone. I think you see a lot of business owners do lateral movements in stage one.
Yes.
Because we start to say, okay, I've got this thing and I'm trying to sell it and it's not working. And I'm uncomfortable because it's really uncomfortable to be in this messy middle stage. But instead of really focusing in on how to fix this thing, we just pivot to a new thing or pivot to the next thing or pivot to this next strategy.
Exactly. And what I think is so interesting about that is it really ultimately keeps us in the beginner stage.
Mhm.
And, a lot of times we also we get comfortable with programs or influencers or coaches, and we end up doing like all of their programs. And what it is moving, I know we're both like, yes, yes, what you're
Sorry, yes. You
um
don't know me.
yeah, yes, I do. But
Yes.
us moving within the same stage. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily grow us to where we need to be. And I think it gets to the point where I really think and I think we do this, we encourage our clients and our listeners to question. And from a broader picture, it's like question the rules that you're following,
Mhm.
um, which means step out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
But really, now look at look at the systems. Really take a really 30,000-foot view of your business. And, does this serve you? Is this going in the right direction? Is this the role you want to play? And all those different kinds of things that need to happen as you're looking to scale.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
like the messy middle is that point of where exactly am I going?
Yeah, it's like I've got the offer, but I want to now be profitable with my offer. I have my thing. How do I really get it out in the world? And uh, if you take nothing else away from this podcast, I really want people to really hear this piece. I actually do believe at the heart of it, most women already internally know everything they need to know to
Mhm.
be successful. Okay. Especially if you have those beginner foundational pieces in place. If you have a business plan and you have a validated offer, okay,
Mhm.
the road to get there is actually very simple. It is not easy, but it is simple. Okay.
Right.
All right. We need to drive traffic to the offer. Okay. We can do that through 1,000 different tactics and ways. Again, simple, but not easy. And then you need to have a mechanism to convert. Okay.
Mhm.
And if you can get those things dialed in, then you can be gold. What the mistake that people make in this messy middle piece is that we get into tactic overload. And to your point, we get into this piece of it where we are joining other programs because we're trying to follow other people's blueprints to try to model this success, okay, and simplify some of these things because maybe you're not very tech savvy. So you join a program that gives you a lot of the tech pieces, okay? And maybe you're not a copywriting person, so you join a copywriting program or all these things, right? There's always something bright and shiny and new in online business. And with the advent of AI, it's gotten worse. But there's so many cool things for you to look at and different ways for you to get your offer out there. So we're always looking for the bright, shiny, quick, and easy thing to get it to work. But I think if we all got really quiet and really started to get internally focused, you'd start to figure out really quickly what would work for you, what wouldn't,
Right.
and then how you have to execute. And I think that's why we put SAVOUR at the center of so much of what we do,
Mhm.
because it really is those steps
Yes.
that lead to the success of online business.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because I think one of the things to also really keep in mind during this messy middle time is that, and I think it's I'm just reiterating what you've said is you're not off track.
No.
It's the messy middle is the sign that you're becoming whatever it is that you want to be. And, I'm very much into looking at things from a very holistic point and realizing that things like, well, I did this course and the coach said I need to do this. And I'm really not comfortable with this. And I'm, I have examples in my head going through my head right now.
Well, so could
I'm
you
not
give
really
us an
comfortable with
example?
this, but so yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, I'd
it's
put you
like
on the spot. I could give one too if you'd be more comfortable, but yeah.
that's fine. I mean, like there's certain tactics, like There are people who say you must do at least 3 social media posts a day to get any
Mhm.
traction. Well, I think that's
Mhm.
garbage. And and the other big one is, and you must do reels. Okay. You must do reels. Well, I'm not super comfortable with reels. I'm personally much happier. I love doing images with text. I
Mhm.
absolutely, that's my thing. That's my jam. That makes me happy. That gets me to do what I need to do, which is be out there and developing my face out there,
Mhm.
my half of serendipitous travel. But there's tactics that we may not feel comfortable with. And it doesn't make it wrong that we don't feel comfortable with it. It doesn't mean that we're going to fail in any way, shape, or form because we don't do that. There are so many people out there who have built incredible businesses and they don't necessarily show their face.
Mhm.
Everything they do is in writing, whether it's the long form, short form, whatever form, and that's okay. Also, I mean, there's adamant that you have to use a certain, say, software, have to use a certain. I remember for a long time, it was, what were those education platforms that, of course, now I can't even remember. There were 2 of them that competed, and I actually had one of them. And you put your
It
education, you put your courses on it.
teachable or
Was one of them, and that's not the one I
okay,
had. But anyway, there was
or
a time,
Podia. There were so many things. Yeah.
yeah, time when it was like you have to use that, and you
Mhm.
otherwise, or so there's things like that. Or we still live in a world where you have to be on TikTok. Well, you're the TikTok girl. I haven't figured TikTok out yet, and I don't. And for a while there, I literally felt like a failure. Why can't I do this? And then I'm like, because it's not my jam, and that's okay.
Well, and I think like to even pull that back further, I think it's like really important as an online business owner to understand what there's like there's a quadrant here, okay? There's like what you're good at and what you have to do, what you're not good
Mhm.
at and what you have to do. Those are the things you outsource or you
Yeah,
tag team and you have a business partner who has strengths that it does that, okay? And then there's what you're good at and you don't have to do. And there's a lot of us that get stuck in that box for a long
yeah,
time. And then there's like not what you're good at and what you don't have to do. And you can just let those things go. And I think figuring
yeah,
out those things and those quadrants are really important, especially in this messy middle stage, because I think so when I think of messy middle, it's like we're like struggling to get to make it, whatever your definition of making it is, right? And in the slog of doing that, you're trying out all of these different things. But I think if most of us could get really quiet and get really honest with ourselves, you'd start to recognize, like, okay, maybe you're not making it because you're trying to do tactics that you're not good at and you don't want to do, right? Or you're not making it because you're running a model that is not in alignment
right,
with your actual goals in life.
right. I also think that there are, and you alluded to this, there are definitions of making it.
Yeah.
And I think about making it could definitely, for a lot of people, it's financial. For a lot of
Mhm.
people, it may be, I want to be an influencer and I want to have that impact.
Mhm.
I want, so there's money, there's impact. There's also an energetic, I just want to feel jazzed every day kind of thing.
Mhm.
While I think that there's a definition of in business that you have to, in most cases, unless you define yourself as a nonprofit, but still
For
a
a profit.
nonprofit still needs to break even.
Yeah, you need to make money.
Right. You need to make money and it is at whatever level you see fit. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think that's so true. So I came across a quote that I again need to find the source on, but think it's phenomenal. and that it says, we try to template our way out of uncertainty.
Mm-hmm.
And what we really need is clarity
Mm-hmm.
and not conformity. And my gosh, yeah. And I think that's it. We template our way out of, in this time, there's so much uncertainty. It's like, at what point do you stop spinning your own wheels? And as you said, hire people to do stuff. If you're at the very beginning, unless you have someone, unless you have a lot of money, seed money, there is a sweat equity with being an entrepreneur. I know there's a ton of, yes. But at some point, as you're scaling, and again,
Mm-hmm.
scaling could be very well, I absolutely don't like doing XYZ. I'm going to hire someone to do it, XYZ, that kind of thing. And I think that's actually a really important piece as well, is knowing at what point you can start taking on
Mm-hmm.
others to help you get through. Yeah. It,
Yeah. So when I think about, so the messy middle, okay. And when I think about the steps that people in the messy middle should take to progress closer out of the messy middle, because there's a part of me that thinks we never really totally get out of the messy middle at a certain point.
yeah.
Um, because I think if you're in business, the nature of in business is constantly tweaking and figuring shit out, tweaking and figuring it out, tweaking and trying to test the
Mhm.
waters to figure it out. But I think that as you're doing that, I always, we always come back to the elements of savor.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
it really is step out of your comfort zone. You got to
Mhm.
get uncomfortable. And I think of that Ted Lasso quote, it's kind of like riding a horse. If
Mhm.
you're comfortable while doing it, you're probably doing it wrong. And again, falling back to your template piece of it, so many of us fall back to those beginner programs and templates because they're easy and it's low hanging fruit. But man, it just keeps us stuck in that beginner cycle.
And there's a comfort. And I think one of the things that is a really important sign that an entrepreneur is evolving is we're getting away from the perfectionism and fear of
Mhm.
choosing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And what a lot of things happen is when how many Instagram programs have I done? I can't even tell you how many programs. And really, ultimately, I do whatever the F I want now.
Mhm.
But still, it's like you want things to be perfect
Mhm.
and you don't want to do the wrong thing. So you're stuck. And
Yeah.
that's when and it's like you over research, you overthink,
Mhm.
and there is a point where you're under implementing
Mhm.
things that I think is so amazing that we do, because we're both in that, our strengths are curiosity, and we stay in that curious state. Is that
Mhm.
okay? It's like the debrief is, did that work? How did that work? Can we make it better? What do we need to do?
Mhm.
And there is no fear that we're making a wrong choice. It's, oh, can we do that better? How did that go? Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
And it's actually a really cool place to be. And I know it's hard if you're in your own silo. That if you don't have, like, oh my God, I am so freaking lucky that I have Krystal, that we can back and forth and back and forth,
Mhm.
um, and keep Voxer in business. But and I
Yeah.
know that that's
You're welcome, CEOs of Voxer.
well, yeah. I think that it's really, and I think when you're in a silo, it's hard. It's hard. And it's
Yeah.
in one of the big saver pieces is you have to be open to community. And it really is finding the community that
Mhm.
helps you finding the community that helps you to bounce ideas off of, and also it keeps you going on that right path. And my hand is going upwards towards the sky as I say that.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I think again, I really do think if you're stuck in that messy middle piece, you don't need another group program. I think that there's a huge benefit to a lot of masterminds if you're
Mhm.
in alignment with what it is that you're wanting to get out of it. But I think that the big piece of it is learning again to step out of your comfort zone, aligning with your passions and purposes. Are you creating and showing up with a business and an offer that lights you up? Because if not, it shows in every other area of your marketing.
Gosh, yeah.
Are you venturing under your own power? Are you doing the doing, but are you also taking care of your physical health at the same
Mhm.
time? You had said the community and connection piece, but are you also unwinding with self care? And are you ritualizing the gratitude and celebration and understanding your wins along the way, even when they don't feel like wins? Because I think there are plenty of times that we have even launched things and it's felt like a failure, maybe. But what did we learn in the process?
Mhm.
What went really well? What can we do better? It's really about refining and tweaking, because the only way you're not failing in this online business world is by not doing. And I think that's the biggest failure that you can have.
The thing I think about, like, what is it that makes the messy middle become manageable? And it is using a method like SAVOUR and
Mhm,
having some structure that allows, that gives you permission to sway. Because I always think of the analogy of the tree. The
mhm,
tree that has solid roots and has
mhm,
it, and from the and foundational roots, that tree during a bad storm is going to sway, but it's going to stay upright. And I
mhm,
always, you know, um, businesses are so much like that tree, with the foundational parts that you have when you're a beginner, that you put in place, the structures that you put in place, that then as you go up the tree, up the ladder, you give yourself permission to follow the path that works best for you. And it
mhm,
could be, you could take one of those courses and tweak it. That's
mhm.
perfectly allowed. And I
Yeah.
think as coaches, we see the need to do that quite often.
Mhm,
Oh, everything is not necessarily set in stone. Really do think that having this sort of foundational structure in place is really what those who are in this messy middle need.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
I also think that it's also doing a little bit of reframing, in that you're not stuck, you're in transition. And the
Mhm,
best thing to do when you're in transition is to really slow down
mhm,
and take a really honest look at where you're going, what you're doing, how you're,
mhm,
all the various pieces, to make sure that you're still in alignment. Because this is
mhm,
also, I think, one of the messiest pieces about it is how do you stay true to yourself? How do you stay aligned to what your mission and vision and purpose has been, and make
mhm.
still. I mean, we've done things where we've been like, ooh, where did we get off? Ooh, and the need to come back to it. So you're not stuck, you're in transition, and realizing that the messy middle is like a season and it has a rhythm, and
Mhm.
generally it too shall pass.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
and I also think that one of the things that's super, super helpful is having this type of community where you get together and you can do everything from shoot the shit to relax and really give yourself, it's the rejuvenation and the recalibration that we all need. And
Mhm.
I think that is one of the things we take.
Yes. Yes, we do. So on that note, I think if you're feeling, again, just like you're in the void. That's the other way to put the messy middle. You're in the void. And I really do challenge you to stop looking for the group programs, find some stillness,
Mm-hmm.
Start to do some inner soul searching of like, what is it that
Mm-hmm.
really understand that and find your community and then just stay the course. You're doing
Yeah.
great. We are totally here cheering you on. You're so much closer than you think you are.
Yes, I could not agree more. You're not behind, you're becoming. And we're
I
here.
love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
So thank you all for joining us.
Until next time, bye.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a rating.
But only if you liked it. Otherwise, just keep it to yourself.
You can learn more about our upcoming masterminding opportunities on our website at serendipitousrebel.com.
And if you have topics you'd like to hear about, be sure to submit them on our website or DM us on social media.
Hey, see you next week. Bye.
Bye.